What's going on, everybody? It's Rob Brunson from Wallace Electronic Sales. We're back with another episode of the Electronic Intervention. Today, we've got a really cool guest coming on to talk to us about all things IoT. We have Josh Cox from Oxit. Go ahead and bring Josh on. Josh, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well, Rob. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. We actually we had to reschedule. You're a busy guy. I think you were traveling last week, and I think we were talking before. You were out in Tijuana.
Yep, Tijuana, Mexico. We're out doing a factory audit, helping some guys get up and running out there with a product line. So
nice. How was the weather?
It was warm. It was nice. So
yeah. And you guys are based in Charlotte, so
we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's right. Yep.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about Oxit. I'll pull up the website here in a second, but I kind of wanted to give you the opportunity to give everyone a 40,000 foot view of your company.
Yeah. So Oxit is IoT engineering services. Today we've got roughly about 100 guys and gals working with us, helping us be successful. We help clients and customers along that IoT journey, whether that's solving interesting or hard problems or trying to create a new product and those kinds of things. So anything connected related, we get involved and help people be successful within that area.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about you. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? How'd you get into this? Were you sitting around one day and said, hey, I'm going to start an engineering services company, or how did that come about?
Yeah. So I'm from Hickory, North Carolina. It's about an hour outside of Charlotte.
Yep.
Been interested in electronics and entrepreneurship practically my whole life. So started out and I ran an apartment maintenance company and was doing started repairing fridges and washing machines and those kinds of things, and conned myself into going to into engineering school because I thought it was cool, thought it was interesting, and I had some passion for it. So I spent most of my college career figuring out who I was going to go into business with. So it was 4 years of recruiting for me to figure out who the best guys were and make sure they were on my team.
Right.
So right out of college, went into and really started a consulting services company while we were actually still in school, and got our first gig with a startup, which and helped them bring a product to market. And then after that, we kind of rebranded, settled on the name Oxit, and really just been doing IoT engineering services ever since then. So.
Really cool. So how old is Oxit as a company? Because you're a pretty young guy.
Yeah, so Oxit is 4 years old.
Okay.
I've been doing engineering consulting now for about 8 years. So, or actually closer to 10, I think. But it's an interesting path for us. Our first consulting company kind of got focused on a single startup and helping it bring its product to market.
Right.
So that became kind of our primary focus. I think what's really interesting about IoT, though, is everything is relatively new.
Sure.
The languages we're using today, the way we're architecting solutions today, it is all new. And therefore, it's kind of given us an interesting perspective, because we came into all this, a decade ago, and, learning all these, MQTT was just coming out, which is like the backbone of a lot of IoT today. So it's been really interesting to see things transition from server to serverless, and Wi-Fi chips were just then becoming cheap enough to be put into products. So a lot of interesting transitions and market transitions, I think, were happening right when we were stepping into the area.
Right. Absolutely. So one of the things I wanted to ask before we jump into the website, so I'm in the electronics world, right? So I'm a manufacturer's representative. I represent 20 plus companies in the Southeast, whatever. So the question would be, if I was a 5-year-old, explain IoT to me like I'm 5 years old, and then we'll jump into the website. But I kind of want to, if I can, put it in a box. I know it's a lot, but if we could try to put it in a box of exactly what IoT is for someone who knows nothing about it, how would you describe it?
It's a challenging question.
Sure.
And I appreciate the 5-year-old mentality there. What's interesting,
journalism here, Josh. I asked the hard-hitting questions.
No. Well, it's funny, right? A 5-year-old today is a lot different than the 5-year-old right when we were growing up. So
that's really true.
In a weird way, they're so immersed in technology now. It's quite a different question.
They were born with an iPhone.
Right. But in general, to me, IoT is adding connectivity, and in general, that implies that data is moving and flowing between two devices. In the early days, IoT had this M2M kind of mentality, and really IoT is just a new coined phrase, the Internet of Things, meaning now we're not just moving the data between two machines, we're kind of moving data up into the cloud. But to distill that down to as you said, a 5-year-old could answer it. I think it really just gets into, for me, it's reactions. So I like to think, you walk up to your front door and your door unlocks. Right. That's IoT. When you talk to Alexa, that's IoT. When you turn on the lights with anything other than the literal switch, maybe you're using Alexa, maybe you're using your phone. But it's gotten even more interesting than that, perhaps. When you're walking down the road and and you see street lights kind of turning on now. Yep. Even those which used to be just motion sensors now are IoT. So it's tough to explain, but I think that's the definition I would settle on in the moment.
It helps me understand, and if I can understand it, then a 5-year-old can understand it. So I wanted to pull up your website and us take a look at it really quickly. I will note, anyone who's watching, if you guys want to scan that QR code, there's a nice little cartoon of Josh right in the middle of it. You guys can scan that, and it'll take you guys right to Oxit's website if you have any questions for them. It's got a nice contact us page. But I thought we would just kind of go through this and let you explain, what it is you guys do. We can click through a couple of things, and we talked about this, but I would like to go through one of the case studies just so people can really wrap their arms around the solutions that you guys provide. Really nice website, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very clean. See, this is so funny. One of the first places when I first started this 2 years ago that I ever visited on my first sales calls was actually you guys. And y'all's office is really nice. I didn't know anything. So you guys are asking me questions, and basically my answer over and over was, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. But really nice office space that you guys have down in Charlotte. And you guys were really nice to me, and I didn't know anything. So I appreciate that. But I remember it used to be oxit.io. Now you guys are .com. So
we transitioned over.
So anyways, take us through this, and, I'll go wherever you want to go. I would like to end on the case studies, though. And we'll kind of walk through that. So I'll let you have at it, and I'll go wherever you would like me to.
Yeah. So, I think just from at a 10,000 foot level, what is Oxit? Today we've got a couple of million live sensors connected to the internet through our clients and working with them, which is an achievement nonetheless. As you create products and you go through an engineering process, there's these things called bugs and issues, right? And typically those prevent you from scaling. But I think the market allowed us to succeed, for two reasons. But my favorite coin phrase that I like to use is engineering with morals.
No, there you go.
And so that's who we are, right? We don't keep clients hostage. We do right by clients. We have the difficult conversations, and we stay true to our heart, and trying to do right by our clients. So most of our early stuff is just around kind of telling that story of Oxit today. From a technical standpoint, I'm lucky enough to not be the smartest guy, certainly at Oxit anymore. So we've got a team of really, really smart people that make me take a back seat. And that's Oxit. Where I love the high energy slide there. I've won several business deals because I go into calls and say, "Hey man, we're going to hustle for you. We're going to work hard." And, there's not a lot of that in our industry. There's kind of this laid back, putting it in just kind of riding along. And
sure,
it's not uncommon to see someone running in the halls here at Oxit, literally. And it's a good energy. We've got the right spirit, and that plays into our work.
Yeah.
And I think that matters, right? You saw the Dilbert cartoons. I don't know if you've ever watched that, right?
My boss is obsessed with them. We have them hanging up all over he told me to read one from Sunday about, I'm actually getting married in March, and it was one about getting married. But yeah, we're very familiar with Dilbert in the office.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the culture though, and plays into the work, right? So we have a really great culture, a really great energy, plays into our work. So yeah, we've worked on probably 100+ products at this point, and really been successful. A couple of key areas that we found a lot of success in is a technology called LoRaWAN, which
I've
we
seen
started.
You post about that on LinkedIn a lot.
Yeah, we caught a lot of early success. We started using that about roughly 8 years ago. Had a unique opportunity to choose the technology that we were going to deploy in Nairobi, Kenya. With the American Red Cross, and it was a pretty exciting project that we got to work on. But I chose a brand new, like straight off the press technology, and 8 years later, Amazon's adopting this technology, Microsoft's adopting it. So we've got 8 years of experience in something that a lot of guys are just now being exposed to. And that's led us to be in a pretty unique position, given the technology has a little complexity with getting up and running with. So
absolutely. Well, if you don't, are you allowed to talk about what you did in Nairobi?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. What was up with that?
So, I guess kind of it takes a second. I'll set a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah, sure.
We were working on a connected smoke alarm and IoT smoke alarm. Okay. And one of the novel bits about it was it had a weather radio.
Okay.
So, in the US, we've got we have this weather radio broadcast system, NOAA. So if you ever heard that beep, beep, and kind of interrupting your radio, your TV, whatever it is, that's kind of that NOAA broadcast. And we were kind of one of the modern day companies actually using that technology in an IoT product. Okay. So the White House has a Innovation Disaster Response Day, which is all about just bringing in innovative people and looking at how we can respond to disasters. And they were thinking about, what if a weather radio was built into, think Alexa. We were building it into a smoke alarm, but I think they had a kind of another vision for it.
Sure.
But, imagine how you might be able to talk and work with people outside of just your standard radio and standard televisions, how that was going to change. And so, we were down there, and they just actually broke us off into a session, and one of the colleagues had an opportunity was sitting down with someone from the American Red Cross, and us being a smoke alarm company, we shared that, and they said, that's interesting. We have an initiative to reduce fire deaths by 50% over the next 5 years globally. Wow. So it was just a really interesting conversation, and one thing led to another, and that's how we got into a project, kind of building a environmental sensor that was aimed at, could we detect fires and things of that nature, but outside of a normal home setting. So if you think about like the slums, they've got open roof designs. They cook inside their homes with smoke bellowing out. It's a lot different than the way we cook here in the States. So it was a very interesting project.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So real quick, I guess, let's click on your services here. And you've
Sure.
kind of went over this, but I think we could drill it down just a little bit more just for anyone watching. So this is kind of it in a nutshell, right? I think that's fair. So walk us through a couple of these here and kind of where you guys specialize and where you've had the most success.
Yeah, so kind of starting in the top left, that's not there by accident. Our embedded engineering, creating firmware, writing code that runs on devices, and getting that out into the field in a way that's maintainable, that's reliable, that works, and works well, is kind of a big thing for us. So
Sure.
it's our largest engineering team internally, and really something we get recommended for a lot. Kind of just strolling there from left to right, mobile and web development. So we're an AWS partner. We create lots of cloud-based solutions. So if you imagine an end device, like a temperature sensor is generating data, that data goes up to the internet, goes into a server, and then we create a website or a mobile app to consume that data.
Right.
Then on the right there, hardware development. So, that's creating the physical product on the, PCBA, PCBs, doing that layout. But it also gets into the RF engineering, making sure they work well and can, get the range that you're looking for, the battery
Sure.
life that you're getting for, all those other nuances.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think outside of that is just, how we help clients be successful, right? Managing projects, getting products, prototyping them, getting them live, getting them out there, and then keeping them out there and keeping them running.
Right.
So
let me ask you this. So I've with mobile and web development. So if I came to you and I said, hey, I want to design an app and you guys help me code it and all that good stuff, do you teach the people, the customer, how to run their device after that? Or you kind of act as their engineering team for the longevity? How does that work?
Yeah. So, we've got two big approaches, and it really depends on the customer and what their ambitions are.
Sure.
You see two types of customers, right? You see clients that have a understanding that in this day and age, engineering's never done. You're in a continuous development cycle. Because customers expect you to listen and react to them these days, right? Customers will call you and say, hey, it'd be really great if you added this feature, you did this.
Sure.
In addition to that, every year, Apple's launching a new iPhone. So customers just have this kind of expectation that things improve over time. So the idea that you can kind of build something and sit on it is somewhat antiquated. It's not the way people feel today technology should work. They think it should evolve, and almost at a pretty fast pace. So it makes it interesting, right? So we end up with a lot of clients that may fit into that bucket where it's more of a continuous development. On the other side of that, I would say is our smaller clients who are, getting started. They're interested in trying out, getting something live up and running. And that generally works in a model. Well, we're going to create the solution. We're going to hand it back to you. And, it's going to work when we release it to you. And then if we need to support that or engage with that at a later time, we will when that happens.
Gotcha.
Those are the kind of two things. For smaller companies, our main objective is to get off your books, because we know we're expensive, relatively speaking, for most smaller companies. So the goal is to get in, get it done, and get off the books so that you can use that solution. And that's our main objective.
Cool. Really cool. So I wanted to go take a look over here at the case studies and maybe walk us through one of these.
Sure.
We had talked about this one right here.
Yep.
I'm going to pull it up and I'll kind of let you just explain it, and I'll scroll as you go.
Sure. So Simmons is about 100-year-old plumbing company.
Okay.
They actually got they started out in the thermostatic mixing valve business, which is effectively, if you've ever been in the shower and you kind of set the temperature, even if your hot and cold water kind of fluctuates how much flows there, the shower temperature should remain pretty consistent. It shouldn't be varying too much.
Right.
That's what that does. So that's really where this company started. And they were very interested in getting into IoT and, developed a solution that they wanted to come to market with around monitoring plumbing infrastructure.
Okay.
So the goal inside of, hospitality, in the hospitality industry, the goal there is you have water kind of flowing in kind of a big circle, if you can imagine.
Sure.
If you're on the top floor of a hotel, you don't want to turn the hot water on and wait for that water to climb all the way up.
No.
So the hot water is kind of continuously circulating. That way, when you turn that on, it shoots over. But because of that, within a hotel, within all that plumbing infrastructure, there's always something that can go wrong. So we worked with them and developed a kind of complete ecosystem solution. So it starts out at the lowest level with temperature and leak sensors that you strap on to different pieces of equipment within the hotel onto the pipes. What's really neat about it is no matter, depending on the pipe material, diameter, and flow rate, all of that, we're a non-invasive sensor, which means we just strap onto the outside, but we actually report what the internal water temperature is.
Okay.
And using that, putting these sensors all around, we can detect all sorts of issues within the hotel, and make sure that they're actually providing a good guest experience, a good hot shower.
Sure.
and that's really the main objective of the whole solution. So, you've got these sensors that you need to deploy around, and then you want to get that data online and get them connected.
Right.
You want a sensor that lasts a long time, that's easy to deploy. And then you want alerting, and you want to be able to know what's wrong and how do you, and those sides of it. So we worked with them and kind of came together with a pretty interesting solution. And, they've got it live and running right now.
Really cool.
Very happy to say they made it through the COVID situation. That was a storm to weather, especially when you're primarily targeting hotels with this solution. So, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. Awesome. So again, everyone, the website's here, we'll post it and the QR code will stay up. But actually that brings us to a great transition. You bringing up COVID, because this is one of the things that I like to talk to people about, because everyone has different situations. They had to deal with different things depending on how their company model was. So the first question was, what challenges did Oxit face during COVID? And I know I don't even know if we're out of COVID yet, but it's been about a year and a half. So, and kind of break it down for me, if you don't mind, the very beginning, that initial shock, and then kind of how you evolved as it went on.
Yeah. So I'll say when COVID hit, it's pretty traumatic. We actually had about 3 clients call and pause within probably 2 days.
Wow.
It was just, I think everybody wanted to take I think a lot of companies like to rip the Band-Aid off. They were wanting to they wanted to be careful and protect themselves, and they did the right thing.
Sure.
What's really fun for us is out of those 3 clients that paused, all 3 have came back today.
That's great.
Out of those 3, we've actually 2 of the 3 have the same engineering team that they had when they paused, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
I think for us, we took a very optimistic approach during COVID and actually hired and trained all throughout COVID and grew our team. And when things started to come back, there was only a few people standing, and it was a different world.
Right.
So it's been a ride to handle the kind of whiplash, which I think COVID created 2 challenges, right? It's how to protect on that when everything slowed down, how to keep running.
Sure.
And then when things started to open up, how to actually handle that growth and not, with a little bit of dignity,
Sure.
and not just, with too much growth can actually, create a bad result as well.
Absolutely.
And so I would say it's been wild to see issues on both sides of that and how it's impacted us. But the other interesting thing I think about COVID too, and with the supply chain, is for us, it's actually created a lot of work, because some of our clientele can't afford to stop making product.
Right.
And so they came to us and said, Josh, we need to engineer around this part shortage. And we've actually done full MCU overhauls, changing microcontrollers and porting over firmware to an MCU that they can buy.
Cool.
And it's pretty interesting, right? Because you're buying those parts before you've even done the engineering to validate that part will work.
Yeah.
Which is just such an upside down of how things used
backwards.
to be. Yeah.
It's definitely crazy, man. And, one of my next questions was going to be, what has been your best pivot during COVID? I think one of those would be hiring people when everyone else is getting laid off. I think that's very smart. We have a distributor who loaded up on inventory when everyone else was trying to get rid of theirs, and they had their best physical year during COVID. So it's kind of zigging while everyone else zags. Any other pivots that you made that you're proud of as a company?
That's an interesting one. I mean, as I think more than anything, the the ability to hire is not one that I take lightly. So, that's a special thing that we were able to do.
100%.
And I know why others weren't, but that allowed us to capitalize on the talent pool at that time and take advantage of that. I guess other pivots, we've certainly used the time to focus, and been very focus oriented. And that's been really interesting for us. I mentioned the technology that we've kind of leaned into, and that's really worked wonders for us. Is allowing your company as a whole to say that we're going to be experts, and this is the area we're going to be experts in. So I think COVID allowed us to find our voice and to find that kind of exactly who we're going to be and how we're going to be successful, and lean into that and kind of curate around that. It was a time to get the focus on the company and instead of the projects. And we got to do that. And I wouldn't call that a pivot, but I would call it taking another way of trying to take advantage of the opportunity.
Absolutely. So another question that I like to ask people, especially if they're engineering driven, right? So how did that work? Were you guys rotating shifts in the office? Were you doing everything via Teams and Zoom and whatever? How did that work trying to engineer products as things gradually started to open back up? And then it's a little bit of a two-part question. The back end's pretty easy, but are you doing the work from home thing? Do you like people to be in the office? Do people like being in the office? How does that look now today?
Yeah. So initially, we went to nearly, I'll say 90% remote, and did everything on, it was zooming it up. And it was a different atmosphere. I think we maintained that for nearly 3 months.
Okay.
What was really wild is to hear most of my team was asking, when are we going to go back in the office?
Yeah.
In a kind of an excited way. I think we have a good culture here.
Well, I will say, I hate to interrupt you, but when I was there, the word I would use is everyone's very happy.
Yep.
Right. Whenever I was in y'all's office, everyone was just happy. You didn't see anyone, moping around or doing it. Everyone was really happy. And I think that's really important. Sorry to interrupt you, but I did.
I think that is important. And going back to happiness shows up in your work too.
Yep.
And that's a big piece of, what we do, what we try to do. And I often say sometimes in an engineering call, you feel like sort of a therapist because, there's a lot of stress in engineering. Hardware is hard. And so, being happy and being positive helps just get through the slug out fest of what it takes to be successful.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we went through that phase, and then we kind of came back into the office, ready to be in the office.
That's a great thing.
Yeah. So we actually another interesting opportunity during COVID. We got a bigger building and moved into that and took advantage of, again, trying to just put things in place and be ready for when the whiplash happened. And it was a good bet because things came back with a vengeance.
That they did. And now everything's bottlenecked.
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah. We're dealing with it too.
Yeah. Right. And but overall got to, we got to come back and kind of in stride, and use it to our benefit. So
that's awesome. So here's the question. This is my favorite question that I ask people, and it's a tricky one. So what role does leadership play for you and your company, you being the CEO and the founder? How important is leadership? And then what makes a good leader?
I wish that was a tougher to answer question. No, I think leadership is extremely important to any company. It's wild to watch good leaders grow. But I think, good and great also can be separated. So I'll talk about, I think great leaders can make other leaders.
Yep. I agree.
And realize the importance of doing that. But going at it from our perspective, the kind of key parameters I look for in a great leader is certainly assertiveness. Mm-hmm. I think being organized or having great recall So organize is the right answer, but if you've got a really good memory, you can
it's even better.
substitute that organization. I won't say which one I am, but I'm guilty of not writing too much down. But I think at the end of the day, what allows a great leader is caring. It's the emotional elements of bringing that to work and really being present in the moment, being engaged, and having that while being assertive, while being organized, and having a vision of where we're going.
Sure.
And that kind of thing. To me, those are what embody it. A good leader, and I think a great leader is just able to see what other people they can, and help other people on that journey to also becoming a leader themselves.
That's awesome. And I completely agree with all of those points. So to your point about great leaders being able to make other leaders. Okay. So you're a leader. So the question is, which leader had the biggest impact on your life and taught you how to be a leader? Was it a professor? Was it your parents? Who was it?
Yeah, I would say I've probably been very lucky to have 3 incredibly talented leaders in my life.
Awesome.
My dad would be my hero, who I lost to COVID.
Oh man,
so
I'm so
unfortunate,
sorry.
hard hitting, but he showed me what that meant every day of his life, and it was a beautiful.
That lives on forever.
Yep. I would say I've had my last boss, Ben Stagg, who helped with the smoke alarm company, and he was just an incredible guy. Gave me a lot of opportunities and allowed me to flourish. Yeah. And I think my uncle, AJ Setzer, he would be my number 3. So got a rock solid group of men behind me that have just showed me what that is, and
that's great.
Showed me what it looks like. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So another question that I would have is, okay, so I'm pretty young, relatively speaking. I'm like the potato salad at the grocery store. I look older than I really am. But so what would you tell young people who are looking to start a career in the world of technology, specifically IoT?
I think getting started in technology has never been easier than any time before in history. Everything you need is on the computer. I actually stand firmly against, the mentality that you need to go to school to become involved with technology.
Yep.
I would hire someone right now that could, show me that they've actually would prefer to hire someone that's learned it on their own outside of school, because it shows an ambition and a level of character towards self-motivation.
Yep.
School is kind of very prescriptive and in that way teaches.
It's a roadmap.
Yeah. That's not to say that I certainly wouldn't hire, hire out of school for sure. But I think today is a wonderful place to get involved. It's a wonderful time with the amount of resources online accreditations, and getting, looking at all of these major companies. They offer all sorts of programs that you can get certified and things of that nature on for a couple of $100. But get out and build something. I mean, that's at the end of the day, because it's so easy. And you want to get involved. The best way to do it is to set your eye on just a simple objective and go build it. I remember my first little electronics project. I built like a stoplight intersection, with a couple of little LEDs, right? Yeah. And had a little button that I pretended was the car driving up. Yeah. And, it's just the simple things that you can really get involved with today and let that, desire and ambition flourish and see it manifest, because you get an early win and you get hooked, man. And it just doesn't let up from there. So
that's 100% true. I think that's great advice, especially for young people. I'm the same way as you. I went to school for political science, right? And
there you go.
Turns out I'm not a great liar, so I had to pivot pretty quickly there, and that's one of the best decisions I ever made.
Sure.
I'm going to pull this up really quick, and I wanted to talk to you about this. Then we'll get into some more fun things. So I wanted to ask you about this, right? Excuse me. This is something that So by the way, it took me like 18 hours to update my iPhone yesterday because of the storage that is other. And I wanted to talk about what happened with Apple and the security issue with the update. Someone who's an IoT, I was wondering if you could just explain how that happened and how they caught it, and then what would be the kind of the mechanism of trying to fix that, if you're comfortable doing that. I just thought it's relative.
Yeah, I'll probably start out higher level than maybe satisfactory, but we'll give it a shot.
Sure.
You know, I think security is somewhat of an illusion. It's just how secure.
Right.
You know, nothing is 100% secure ever. It's just not the case, and it never will be the case.
Right.
You know, when you think about your home, and I like to use examples like that, right? We all lock our front doors, but we have a plethora of windows, and all of those are really easy to break and get into. And typically the lock on a window is way easier to defeat, but it's just not the normal way in. So there's a lot of earnest, I think, on anyone in engineering to lock the front door.
Sure.
And unfortunately, in a lot of scenarios, it's the front door's wide open. At best, there might be a screen door, you know, but they just haven't done what I call the base level. So, you know, to me, I think these issues we're going to see. What matters is response.
Sure.
So how fast do you solve the issues once you see them, and that kind of thing. These devices are so complex, so complicated. It's impossible to, you know, lock all the doors and hatches and keep everybody out. But what you can do is respond to threats and have the wherewithal to put solutions in place to detect when there are vulnerabilities. And so I think that's been the kind of change for us in IoT. Is initially, right, you've just got locking the front door, but in the same way at your home, you might put up security cameras. The same thing's happening with technology, where we're putting in ways to detect intrusion and to detect things happening, like massive amounts of data flow or data flow when there shouldn't be, and looking at, you know, situations like that and using that as a way of also detecting it. And so for me, that's where things are going, and that's becoming more and more, you know, out there and that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, though, it's not a surprise to me. I think these things are going to continue to happen. What's important is that they stomp them out fast, put out those fires. But, you know, they said something like, there's some stat out there, but the majority of like phones have keyloggers on them. And I don't even think people really grasp what a keylogger is and the fact that what that really means. But, you know, the second you download some app that's not, you know, even if it's supposed to be from the App Store, just this moment you run some application that's really not well vetted, you really don't, you know, you're just opening yourself up to all that. And we're all guilty of doing it. So,
it's very interesting because it came out, and, you know, my boss Emmett, he ran over, he said, we got to update our phones. And I looked it up and I was like, oh man, this sounds pretty bad. So my iPad updated just like that. So then I go to my iPhone and I look at my iPhone storage, and it's like, you know, 15% apps. And I put all my pictures and videos and stuff like that on a cloud. So I eventually just moved them off of my phone. But I looked at my storage, and the other was like 9 gigs. And I was sitting here I was watching YouTube videos trying to figure out how to clear it up. And more or less what I gathered from it was every time you watch something, or it just basically creates caches of data. So it's supposed to theoretically remove it, but it doesn't all the time. Right. So then there was a couple ways to do it. You know, you could offload your apps, which I did, kind of worked. Then I deleted some apps, which was tough, but then ultimately I had to back up my phone and then just factory reset it just to clear that cache completely. It took a while.
It's you know, even within products, you know, at the dumbest level, you know, just simple products have the same problem. So right, you need to make sure you've got enough memory to store an update. Is a piece of that problem. What's nice about an iPhone is you have the ability to clean that up yourself.
That's right.
You know, a lot of devices may not have the have that wherewithal to make that in the user's control.
Right.
You know, but it's you know, there's been a couple of them. I remember the last one. I don't know if you ever saw that one from the iPhone but you could force someone's FaceTime to answer.
Oh man.
That was a big one. And it actually
didn't freaky.
It didn't get as much press as I thought it would. It was probably about a year ago or so. But you could kind of call someone's FaceTime and force their phone to answer, which is essentially showing their camera without their consent or control, listening to their microphone, etc. So it was,
now I can't even do FaceTime on my phone. It's grayed out. It is. It's so weird. It's probably a good thing. I don't, you know, FaceTime. I'm not a big FaceTimer. as you could probably imagine. But I just thought that was interesting. So this is the fun part. I do this on every interview. So I do a tier maker, and I like to get into people's heads a little bit. So we have A, B, C, D, and water trash, and I figured we would rank just some generic snacks. So we'll go back and forth. We'll each do about 5 or 6, and then I'll post this up on LinkedIn, and everyone can tell us, if we're idiots or not. I tried to find apps or electronic devices, but there wasn't that many great options on here. It was like social media apps, and there was like 7 of them. And then devices was either video game consoles or all the iPhone products, and it has like 7 iPads, and they all look the same because it's just a photo. So I was like, you know what? Let's just go with snacks, because
I think this is more important anyway. So.
That's right. So I'll let you go first, and you can choose whatever you want and stick it wherever you want to. And we'll upload this later. So we'll pass it over to you for your first pick here.
All right. Oh man, it's a tough tie. So far, I would say I do like those Welch's fruit snacks.
Those are delicious.
And the Cheez-Its and Doritos. Those would be my.
So 2 questions. What flavor of Cheez-Its? Is it the white cheddar? Because I like the
white
cheddar.
cheddar. It's definitely the white cheddar.
The white. And what flavor Doritos? Because the spicy sweet
I'm
chili.
probably going the spicy.
Okay.
I like the Cool Ranch. Yeah.
So we'll go with Cheez-Its here, and we'll put that in A.
Yeah.
And then where are the Welch's? Because these are awesome too.
Yep, that's what I meant. Yep.
Yeah. And then I'll go with, I'm not a big Cool Ranch guy either, and Doritos are great. I wish they had the purple bag, the spicy sweet chili ones.
Oh, yeah.
Those are great too. So these are what I love. So I have a Costco card, which is one of the best investments I've ever made. And these veggie straws, if you've never had them, this specific brand, delicious. Yep. And they have like this Chipotle sauce at Costco that you can buy, and you dip it in this Chipotle sauce. Boy, I'm telling you what.
The sauce makes it, I bet.
Yep. The sauce makes it. All right. I'll let you make another choice. Why I sit here and filter through?
I'm going with that popcorn there on the right.
The Smart Pop? Okay.
Yep.
This is very delicious too.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So I'm going to do something that's going to be very unpopular with people, and my mom would actually hate me for this, but I love M&Ms, but peanut M&Ms are disgusting. They have minimal chocolate. The peanuts are not salted. It is not good. So I'm going to track those up to water trash.
Yeah, that Cliff Bar for me is my
yeah, it's not good. That's the thing. And if you look at Cliff Bars, they actually are like worse for you than candy. I mean, they have a ton of sugar. Well, I forget the other brand that's like their competitor, but those are way better for you. And Cliff Bars are like sticky, and they look weird. They look like have you ever got hash browns from McDonald's? How it's like not actual a hash brown, it's like a oval hockey puck disc.
Yep.
That's not a fan. So Oreos, I love. Huge Oreo guy, late night snack. I'm going to put it as a B because I don't eat them as much as I used to, which is probably a good thing. And then these regular rods, not great. I'm going to put these as a D. I love pretzels. Emmett actually has got me hooked on the butter ones. Have you ever had the butter flavored pretzels?
No.
Oh, you got to find those things. They're made by Snyder's, and they're like butter flavored pretzels. Really good. Really good. All right. I'll push it back to you.
I'm going to go the Pocky, I think it is, on the far right.
Where do you want to put that at?
I think I put that as a B. That's a solid B.
The cookies and cream one, they're really good.
They are, yeah.
Those are the best. And the strawberry
I can't put everything in the A category, though.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to put Funyuns in the B. Love Funyuns.
Yeah.
I tried the Flamin' Hot ones, and they were just a little weird. It's just a little strange. I love spicy stuff, but like spicy onions, I don't know.
I think the combos would be a C for me, probably.
Okay. The cheddar.
They're okay.
My fiance loves these things, man. Like I'll get in her car sometimes because she drives a Toyota. I drive a Honda, so she's got like a nice SUV. So whenever I'm taking like the dogs to the dog park, I'll usually take her car. She works at Chewy, so she works sometimes on the weekends. But I swear, man, I'll get in her car and there'll be like combos dust. Like you can just like smell it, like when you crank the car up and it's like coming through the ventilation system, and it just smells like pretzels and cheddar, and it's kind of weird. She's gonna watch. She's not gonna be happy that I said that, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll do 2 more here. I'm going to say, so the Boom Chicka Pop is really good, but not the sea salt one. You got to get the kettle corn, so I'm not going to choose that one. I'm going to say the 7-year-old in me used to love Fruit by the Foots. And this Fruit by the Foots in like middle school, not really high school, used to be like a form of currency. You could get a lot with a Fruit by the Foot. So back to you.
I'll probably go with the string cheese.
Okay, great.
I'm going to put that at I think that's a B for me.
Okay. And the string cheese, have you ever had Polly-O string cheese?
I'm not sure.
Way better than Sargento. It's like a picture of like a parakeet and he's like eating the cheese. A little creepy. Looks like a Dave Chappelle skit, but they're really good. And then let's see, my final choice, and this is going to be contingent on having queso or salsa. I'm going to put Tostitos as a B, even though the hint of lime ones are amazing. You could eat those by themselves.
Yep.
Agreed. Right, your final choice.
I think I'm going with Rice Krispie treats.
It's a great choice. It's an absolutely great choice. You put those in a B or an A?
Yeah, I'm going to B.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is our list. So I think this is a really good list. And we'll share this and, everyone can see the rest of them. But I can't do it. So that'll be our list. The last question before I let you take off. I'm being a little bit nosy, but I see a football behind you right there. You a football guy?
I like football. It's fun to grab it, walk outside with the guys, and throw it around occasionally just to blow some steam. So I am, yeah.
Okay.
It's tough for to me. I won't call myself the biggest sports fan at all.
Sure, I get it.
Stereotypical nerd in me, keeps that from happening. But
so we have a couple comments here. This LinkedIn user who is obviously operating on a VPN and their identity has been, hidden, says they can't believe the Scooby Snacks didn't get any love. Well, that's because we're cultured, LinkedIn user, and we're not going to eat Scooby Snacks. So, and then Bruce said, great interview, very interesting company. So that's really cool.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. We appreciate it. Obviously, like I said, we'll upload this on YouTube. Josh, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Tell everyone where they can find you and find Oxit.
Sure. I appreciate it, Rob. Thanks for having me. If you're interested in connecting with us, it's oxit.com, OXIT.com. And, if you've got any IoT needs or interested in trying to get IoT integrated into one of your products or something like that, or you're a manufacturer and looking at how you could use IoT in your manufacturing line, or tracking people or product as it moves around, anything connected, we'd love to help you out. So thanks again, Rob, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Stick around in the lobby really quick. I want to catch up after we get out of here.
Sounds good.
But that's Josh Cox, everybody from Oxit, and I really appreciate you coming on again, man.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it. Rob Brunson from Wallace Electronic Sales. This is the Electronic Intervention. We really appreciate everyone hanging out and stopping by. Again, if you want to check out Oxit, it's oxit.com. You can also scan this nice little QR code with Josh as a cartoon up here at the top right. If you guys have any questions for me, you know how to get in touch with me at this point. So, again, I really appreciate everyone. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the fall weather. Take it easy. Thanks, everyone, so much for watching the stream. It's Rob Brunson with Wallace Electronic Sales. We want to provide you and your company with quality and competitive solutions. We don't care if you're a small OEM, a medium-sized OEM, or a large OEM. We have solutions that we can provide to everybody. Feel free to drop me an email at rob.brunson@west-inc.com. Again, that's robbrunson@west-inc.com. You can also check out our full OEM line card on our website, and that's at west-inc.com. Again, that's at west-inc.com. Thanks so much again for watching the stream, and we look forward to talking to you soon.